Good morning and welcome back to the Closers Inner Circle podcast. Our topic today is longevity in sales. That doesn't happen by accident, it's a choice. And in this final episode of our 10-part series, your hosts, me, Denise Griffitts, and Bengay III, shift from short-term wins to what truly lasts. Sustainable success comes from intentional habits. We've talked about this. Consistent action. We've talked about that. And the principles you carry forward. So take a moment to reflect which principle matters most to you in your future. And that means business and life. And what will you carry forward this year? Because success isn't just what you achieve, it's what you sustain. So before we dive in, a quick word from our sponsor. Even high earners can feel money stress. Stephen K. De Silva's Financial Sozo, SOZO, framework helps uncover the beliefs behind your anxiety and replace them with clarity, structure, and confidence. So learn more and get his book. I have it. It's a fabulous book. It's called Money and the Prosperous Soul, and you can get that at prosperoussoul.com and Amazon. And don't forget, since we're talking about books, get your copies of The Closers Part 1 and Part 2 by Bengay III at Ronzoni, Ronzone books on eBay. Each book arrives signed by Ben with free shipping, and I think there's some other things that he might want to mention. You'll want them to follow us along with us each week. They're important, especially Part 2. We do an awful lot of work in that particular book. Good morning, Ben. It's Wednesday.
It is. How you doing?
I'd be fine.
You be good?
Yeah. I had a friend of mine from Canada send me a link. He said, "Do people in the South really talk like this?" And I listened to it and I said, "Not where I'm from, but Alabama, maybe Tennessee, definitely." We're all very different. It's all the same message. It's just, said differently.
I've lived in California 50 years, which is somewhat shocking to me. I feel like I've been here about 2 years, but 50 years this time. Plus, I lived here when I was a little boy with my parents, and my favorite comedians are what's the redneck guy, James Foxworthy. Is that his name? And
Yes,
and
Jeff Foxworthy. I love him. He is
yeah,
so funny.
and Louis Grizzard, the voice of the South, in my opinion. And then it shows my age a little bit, but there are some of the older comedians that were around in my early days, and the reason they're my favorites, their common denominator is the South. And the way we talk and I'm saying we, I've been out here 50 years, but still the way we talk and the way we think. And one of the great things about Southerners is our ability to laugh at ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
We know we're funny.
Yeah, and when we do something really stupid and fall literally and figuratively flat on our face, we just sit up and go, "Well, that was stupid," and then off we go. We're laughing at ourselves. I do it all the time.
The Louis Grizzard, I think it was, said one of them said, they say we Southerners are stupid, but you Yankees ought to know that we don't drive into your territory and pay $5 to watch you wrestle a dog that's been painted green. And he's talking about the alligator wrestlers that are all up.
Oh, oh, yeah. Look, I live around alligators. Anytime there's a storm, and when I say storm, I mean hurricane, it is not unusual for a neighbor to say, "Is this one big enough to eat?" Because it's sitting on their porch. They don't want to wrestle it. They just want to eat it. And I'm like, "Nah, I don't think so. You may want to turn that one back." But, it's just, of course, down here, Southerners will eat just about anything. If they can catch it, kill it, skin it, it goes in the pot.
Yeah, that's where Brunswick stew came from. Gigi's always asking me, "Have you ever had fill in the blank?" And I say, "Yeah, I've had Brunswick stew." So yes, I don't even know what she's talking about, but yes, because somebody picked it up, skinned it, cut it up, and threw it in a pot. Whatever she's talking about. Yes, squirrels, possums,
Yeah.
alligators. one of my earliest jobs was I was a young assistant buyer at Macy's and Davison's, they call it in Atlanta, or used to, but it was Macy's. And they stuck me for some unknown reason in the gourmet food department, and I was broke. So you'd be surprised what you'll eat if you're broke. It's like my theory of the person who ate the first oyster, which I love, but the person who ate the first one must have been very hungry.
No kidding.
And
And I love oysters, raw, grilled. But if you look at them before you eat them, you're probably not going to eat it.
yeah, picture it if no one had ever introduced you to it, you hadn't seen anybody else doing it, you found it in about an inch of water in a local creek. Picking it up, cracking it open, and eating it raw would be among my last interests. But
And
having
how
done
did
it,
they know to crack it and open it? That's
yeah, I
my
don't know.
question.
I don't know. And the same thing with one of my favorite dishes on earth, Maine lobster.
Oh,
How
yeah.
hungry must you have been sitting on the beach to look down and say, "Oh, there's dinner." I don't think so.
I know. And
But
here in the
anyway,
South,
we're in
we
the
will eat, literally, we will eat anything. Remind me to tell you my squirrel. I'll tell you my squirrel story later.
all right. Anyways, starving to death, sitting in the stock room of the gourmet food department at Macy's in Atlanta was how I ate my first alligator, my first anything strange, fried grasshoppers,
Hmm.
all that stuff. If somebody said you want a fried grasshopper, I'd say you crazy. But if you get hungry enough, you go, "Where's the can opener?"
This
Give
is
it a try. How bad could it be?
This is true. Years ago, and it's always hurricane season. 6 months of the year is hurricane season, so we never really get out of it. We're either cleaning up after it or we're prepping for it. It's just part of how we live. And years ago, and I think this was during Hurricane Andrew, long time ago, before, after, but it was around that time. And all of a sudden, the whole every house in the neighborhood, small neighborhood, was on a lake. It went black. There was just no power. And there was a transformer that was on the edge of my property, and a squirrel had got up there and, fried itself and fried the transformer. So I called the company and they came out, and this guy jumps out. He's got his hard hat on. He's going to scale that pole. And he looks at me and he came and he knocked on my door. He said, "Hey, how long's that squirrel been dead?" And I went, "What?" He said, I couldn't, my brain couldn't wrap me around why he wanted to know. He said, "Well, if it's only been dead a while, it's only about an hour ago." He said, "Oh, good." And he throws it in the back of his truck. And I said, "What are you going to do with that?" Sauce piquant. I threw up on my feet. Yeah, because I don't like anything with the tomato gravy anyway. And to take a dead, stiff squirrel, because rigor mortis was instant, and take that home to your wife, I'd divorce him. Can you imagine? But he was all happy. I
Oh,
think he
yeah.
probably went and looked for others, but it was just the one.
Well, I love the South for a variety of reasons, and that's uh, one of them. I love the food, the hospitality. I like everything about the South but the humidity. The heat and humidity is not my favorite part.
No, I get very cranky. Right now, it's beautiful. I've got the windows open. I wake up 40 degrees and it's cool. And when the sun comes up, the sky is blue, which we normally don't see because of the humidity. It's always kind of a grayish blue. But when
Hmm.
it's a clear blue, I'm like, oh, no humidity. And out I go. Clothes or no clothes, I'm outside. I have to experience it. But when it gets humid, about 2 or 3 weeks, it takes me about 2 or 3 weeks to feel human again. It really does.
And you and I were talking before we got on about Southern comedians and so on. And I was thinking, I sort of faked it when I got to a name I couldn't remember. It just came to me. Brother Dave Gardner. If you haven't heard any of his recordings, he's long gone, but we became sort of friends. We ran in a same social circle with a bunch of Playboy bunnies. He used to appear at the Playboy Club in Atlanta. But Brother Dave Gardner has got Southern humor down, a little more risque. Than, just like Jeff Foxworthy and Louis Grizzard, they get the South. And I've just stumbled across a bunch of things from Jeff Foxworthy. I don't know how I got on it, but 2 or 3 times a day, I get something from him or his group, and it really makes me smile because I grew up among them people. I,
You know
I know.
what?
Go ahead.
I live in Southwest Louisiana, so this is largely Cajun country where in fact, it's in the middle of Cajun country. It's a very distinct accent. It's tick, tick, tick. It's hard to understand. But some of the funniest things I have ever heard have been from Cajun comedians, if you can understand them.
Hmm.
If you can't, you're just like, I don't know. But there was this one comedian, he's been gone a while, and he was talking about his beautiful red bull. I had to pull the car over. I was laughing so hard and crying because it was just so hysterical. And some of it's not so funny. It's just knockoffs of other, really true comedians. But if you can ever find a really good Cajun comedian, it'll change your life. It really will. They look at things completely differently from the rest of the world.
Well, again, I love the South, and if you can clear up that humidity problem, Gigi and I will move back.
Oh, we can't clear it up. I wish.
Yeah, the first time I took her to Atlanta, she came in and says, "We've got to move here. This is wonderful." I was walking down the street at my sister's house, and she said, "The birds were so loud, I almost couldn't hear myself thinking. And you complained about the humidity. It's perfect." And I said, "Do you know what month this is?" And she says, "April." And I said, "Yeah, uh, April is not the problem."
You've got a week. Enjoy
Yeah.
it.
So the next time we were there, it was humidity season. I forget what month. And she says, as she's lifting her blouse up off her skin, she says, "I get it. I
Yeah,
get it.
it's
We'll visit."
horrifying. I know. And I have often said this, and I'm just going to do it on the radio. I do not know how this part of the country was populated before air conditioning, because in my opinion, that was spousal rape. No question. Can you
Mhm.
imagine any woman who can't get her skirt up to do anything because it's stuck to her legs with sweat, with 8 kids trailing behind her saying, "Sure, honey, come on." Didn't happen. Trust me, it didn't happen.
Well, let's dive into today's subject matter. Lead us.
You want me to talk? I don't wanna talk.
I
This is
want
your
you to lead us and tell us what we're going to do.
Well, this is your job. I've already done. Now I'm gonna whine. We're just basically talking about well, this is part 10. This was a 10-part series that we started at the very beginning of the year, and this is the final one. So basically what we're going to do is just kind of go over what has worked for you and for so many other people, but really it's all about longevity because nothing we do in sales, if we're doing it properly, is an accident. It's a choice. So let's just kind of cover what we've been talking about and why it's a choice and why you have to have systems, why you have to have scripts, why you have to have, the ability to pay attention and listen. There's just so many things that have to happen in sales, and you can't just go, "Oh, I don't want to do that one today. I'm going to do it tomorrow." No, you have to do it today.
Totally agreed. One of the things that I hear frequently in selling is, well, it's easy for you to do well because you've been at it so long. You got all this backed up inventory of people and referrals and so on. That's true. But I too had my first day where I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. I barely understood the product I was offering. And so it's a building process. When I meet somebody, uh, we'll talk sales and business, but it applies to personal life and so on. When I meet somebody in business, as I'm talking to them the first time, I can be probably not very effective anymore at my current age, but I look down the road. Where's this friendship going to be in 20 years if I nurture it properly? And by friendship, I mean business relationship, sales relationship, etc. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, Richard Burns, who was vice president of dry roof systems when I first met him. They were in the insulated roofing business, and he's now happily retired and driving around the country in a big RV, paid for by his years of working effectively in sales. And so, anyway, when I first met him, he's one of those people you just instinctively like. And this was several years ago, and I was younger and all, but he said, "I really hope we get to know each other." I said, "Richard, you and I are going to be close friends 30 years from now, starting today, and I will treat you accordingly because you're not disposable or something to that effect." And he took it
It's not
seriously.
transactional, and I think that's what so many mistakes are made
Hmm.
about sales. It's transactional. It's not. It's what you just said. It's relationship building.
Absolutely. And he and I didn't write down the date we met. I could find it if I had to, but uh, we're probably deep into our 30th or 30s year based on that one handshake and the agreement that we were going to be friends for 30 years. And we have managed to do it, never had a bad time. If I needed money today, I know I could call him and borrow it, and he could call me and borrow it. If I was selling something that I thought he would need, I would call him, explain it to him. I know he would buy it. And the same is true the other way around. And Carol, his wife, and Gigi are dear friends. I met Richard about the same time that Gigi and I were getting together. So we all go back a long way. And I almost feel bad talking about him as a customer and so on because he's a dear friend. Well, first, he was a customer. They hired me to give a seminar to their people, and we did, and it was a hit. And I followed up and stayed in touch. And I've got a letter opener, those plastic letter openers where you take the little prong and stick it in the envelope and the razor blade slits it open. He gave me, I have one we give away sometimes for the closers. It says the closers has my business card stuck in it. And, but where I found that originally was he gave me one of those letter openers with his business card in it and so on. And so I think of him almost every day because it's got a magnet on it, and it was stuck on the side of our refrigerator, and it's been there for 30 years. I think it's on its second refrigerator, as best I recall, but the letter opener is still there. And it reminds me of the deep friendship I have with him. And the side benefit of that is the deep business relationship. Rarely does any length of time go by that somebody doesn't call and say, "I was talking to Richard Burns, and he said," and I just get out my pen because this is going to be an order. It from that one handshake. So if you're new to selling or younger or what have you, start building your long-term relationships. Take the long view with everyone you meet. If you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, you'll meet people today or at least this week that you should be good friends with personally and business wise for the next 15, 20, 30, 35 years. I've told you the story of the time Jimmy Rucker and I agreed to do a seminar for a friend of ours who had booked it but couldn't get there. And so I said, "Sure, we'll go do it. How many people?" And he said, "About 500. Rucker and I are sitting down in the locker room of this high school because the meeting was going to be in the high school auditorium they had rented. And about the time it drove through a blinding rainstorm, a good southern storm to get there. And
Oh, those are the ones that you have to pull over or get under an underpass. You cannot drive in them.
right, yeah, a smart person would not let the car move, nor
Mm-mm.
would he pull over where somebody could come up and not see you because they can't
Right.
see either and take out your car. But it was one of those things. And in the process of getting in and out, I got a little wet. And so I had to change clothes. So I'm down in this locker room. He comes down. I said, "Are they ready?" He said, "Yeah, he's ready." I said, "No, are they ready?" He said, "Ben, he is ready." Well, it turned out there were two of them, but one was in the bathroom when Rucker checked the auditorium. So while I walk on stage with Rucker giving me my official introduction to two people. This was in probably 1965. And I said, I'm going to present the opportunity to you. It was Holiday Magic Cosmetics, but I only know how to do it one way, and that's by the script. So if you don't mind, I'm going to give you the script as if the other 498 people I were promised are in the room. And they said, that's great. So I did. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ben Gay, and 37 minutes showed the film. Turn to the person who brought you here and ask how you can get started in Holiday Magic. It says at the end, and the lights came up. Rucker turned the lights up. And I said, let me now explain to you what your options are. I went through the options and they picked one of them. I forget what it was. They weren't my prospects anyway, but they picked one. And that was 65, let's see, 35, 45, 50, 60 years ago. And one has since passed away not too long ago. But Nolan Bush is my friend, customer, and I get stuff from him 60 years later because I treated our first meeting dead serious, humor, honesty, upfront, gave him a professional presentation, and the whole thing, beginning to end, took about an hour. And I'm still trading on that hour 60 years later. So when you meet somebody today, as Denise just said, this is not a transactional event.
No, no.
Tr- yeah, treat it as a long-term relationship. And if you don't do anything to screw it up, like cheat them or overpromise and underdeliver, something like that. There's no reason. And if you have a system, my daily success system that Napoleon Hill taught me, makes me stay in touch. You don't have to buy anything. If you become my friend, you don't have to buy anything from me to be in touch. I will reach out to you with an email or a phone call or a text, or even occasionally I've done that poke thing and all of them, where it says poke 'em, whoever it is. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know
I
who
think
does
that
it.
used to be a Facebook thing,
Was it?
I
I,
think.
I can't, if I can't think of anything to talk about or I'm in a great rush, I'll have to admit I've used that a few times. And even then people say, thank you for thinking of me.
Mhm.
And that they're surprised in this day and age, the fact you thought about them is amazing to many people. So long view was the subject thing we started out with. I can't emphasize it enough. And don't say, well, I don't have 30 years to wait. 30 years will be on you before you know it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and I look at life in 10-year increments, and
Hmm.
a lot changes in each of those 10-year blocks. It's shocking.
Sure.
Hey, and I wanted to mention too, because we're talking about the long view and that things should not be transactional. It doesn't necessarily have to be all about sales. It should be about how you handle your business, how you connect with people and make those connections that are going to last a long time. As a for instance, I've said this a lot. I've got 3 bookshelves in here. They are packed, overpacked, and I need to start thinning some of them out. I've read every single one of these books. These are exclusively gifts from my podcast guests on your partner in Success Radio. Yours is here, obviously. Waymish is here. I've got a lot of stuff, Zig Ziglar. But the thing is, years ago, many years ago, and I've never sold this woman a thing. She's never sold me a thing, but we work together beautifully. And her name is Tess Woods, Tess Woods, Tess Woods PR. In fact, she was my guest a couple, 3 weeks ago. But about 10 years ago, a book landed in my mailbox. I hadn't asked for it. I didn't know what it was. There was no note, but it was this fantastic book that I still have. And I couldn't figure out why I had this book. So tucked away at the very end of the book was basically a one sheet because she works with authors. She works, she's a PR person. And I finally found that after I had just devoured this book. And I called over there and this woman answers the phone and I said, "Hi, may I speak with Tess Woods? My name is Denise Griffitts." "We've been looking for you. We've been waiting for you." And I said, "What? What are you talking about?" She has sent me amazing authors on a regular basis. She and her CJ works with her. They know that they don't even have to ask me. I just say, "Book them." They know me. They know how I operate. They know what kind of books I'm interested in, what kind of authors. That's a long-term relationship,
Yep.
and it's very beneficial to both of us. So it doesn't necessarily have to be all about sales. It does have to be about relationships.
But what you just said is all about sales.
Is it?
Of
Tell me.
course.
Tell me how.
It's sales infiltration,
Oh,
consciously or subconsciously. You've gotten inside each other, but let's do it from her side. She's gotten inside of you. She sends you people. Therefore, if someone's looking for, if I called you up and said, I'm looking for a good PR person, who do you recommend? Whose name would pop up?
Tess Woods
Of
and
course.
Devin Blaine. Devin Blaine is a PR guru in California, and Tess, I think, is in Massachusetts. I would highly recommend either of them.
And in this day and age, where they are doesn't make any difference. You don't have to have lunch. There's a
Right.
thing called Zoom. There's a thing called a telephone. There's email, whatever. So the only thing I have to worry about now with many of my customers and referrals is time zones.
Hmm.
By the way, I read the other day in one of those, pardon me, trivia things they send you. I've got to look at a map and figure out why. Part of it is because it's up high where the lines of latitude or longitude get closer together. But we have four, if you don't count Hawaii, we have four time zones in the United States. Russia has 11.
Well, they do like to do things bigger and better.
Yeah, apparently 11. I don't
That's re-
understand that.
it's a Is it as big as does it need to be that big? I don't never mind. I don't even know how big that country is.
Pretty good size, apparently. And I forget what it was, latitude, longitude, I think is what goes up the globe. As you get near the top, the lines get closer together. Down at the equator, they're farther apart. So I get part of that, but 11 time zones. I thought, I'm not sure my daily success system can handle 11 time zones. And
It
that's
can't.
that's there. Plus, the ocean between us has several, and then we have four if you don't count Hawaii. So you could be talking to, I'm making up, exaggerating, but you could be talking to somebody 11 a.m. your time and their time, but theirs is Wednesday and
I
yours
do.
is Tuesday.
That happens a lot. My contractors are in other countries, and I deal, as a podcaster and honestly a web developer. I have been known to work with people across the globe or across the pond, as they say, and I just automatically go, "Yep, that they're 6 hours ahead of me. Okay, we're good."
Yeah, scheduling podcasts, as you know, is tricky to start with, but throw in 11 time zones, it gets much trickier and sometimes not doable because I'm old and grumpy and I have my daily success system. I'm not going to do a podcast at 3 in the morning
Aw,
or
see,
on
that's just mean of you.
yeah, it is, or on Saturday or Sunday
Right.
or on national holidays, etc. A, far less people listen. B, I just don't want to do it. So I probably have missed some clients and customers over the years just because of where they live, and I'm not willing to jump through that many hoops to do it. But with a long view, you'll work all that out. And the long view is crucial in building any kind of business or personal relationships. But in sales, if you can take the long view, you have a superpower other people don't have. And once the pipeline begins to fill up, you don't have to wait 30 years to see results. When you're operating with a long view, you'll see results in a week and then 2 weeks. And then on the 6 month or something, you go, "God, my business has changed." Because you may be doing business with them today, you've maybe only known them 6 months, but if you're treating them right, the effect has already taken place. the sales infiltration that we talk about so much from the closers part two is it's infiltrating them. And so when you tell somebody like that, I have a friend, a partner in a couple of operations, Mark Harris, and he has. I asked him one time if he was Mormon because he's got, I'm making up numbers, but like 13 kids still at home, and
And
they're
is he still sane? I mean, is he okay?
yeah, he seems to be. I haven't caught him at anything yet, but he's got all those kids. Now, I was looking through my daily planner, knowing we might touch on sales infiltration and the daily success system and so on. And I may have missed one or two, but I don't think so. He's got, let's say it's 13 kids, and himself and his wife. I know, not off the top of my head, but in my systems, I know the birthdays of every single one of them. And on their birthday, I communicate directly with them with an email or whatever. And he knows I work off of a system. Gigi calls it programmed warmth. She said you
Oh,
she said
but you know
you
what? That makes sense. It really does. It reminds you something that you might forget and feel bad about. You're not just being specious about it, you're being very deliberate about it.
absolutely.
Like that new word?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, for a southerner, that's pretty impressive.
And I can
Gigi,
spell it.
Gigi said something about something was ensconced in her brain the other day, and I thought, where'd that come from? I know every word she's ever said. She must have read it somewhere. And I looked, she saw my head jerk around and she said, did I use it right? And I said, well, the way you used it is sort of a cousin of what's right. But I speak three languages. I speak English, I speak Southern English, and I speak Gigi.
I speak Southern English and snark.
So anyway, long view, it's not, you're not going to get any results for 25 or 30 years. You'll get results next week. But the real secret is as you fill your pipeline, build up your backlog of people you have with whom you have that relationship 20, 30 years from now, your life won't even resemble what it is like now. It will be so far down the road and improved from the average person. So it's deliberate. It's Gigi calls it programmed warmth, but it's not accidental that I remember Mark Harris's children's birthdays. And he being the real target, he always raves about it. You remembered so and so's birthday. Mary and I were so impressed with that. And I said, well, you're impressed 13 or 14 times a year with that.
I don't even get a month off.
Yeah.
See, that's
So,
amazing, but I that makes perfect sense to me because if you show up, even if it's just, and I say just, and I shouldn't, but if it's a birthday remembrance or if it's, they lost somebody important, you're thinking about them. And I
mhm,
think so many people leave that behind. They don't understand the importance of somebody saying, "Oh, you thought of me. Thank you."
yep. The and somebody, I forget who it was, he or she probably got it from somebody else, but this is nothing more beautiful in the world than the sound of your name,
Mhm.
being spoken by somebody else. I just put this on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it or not, but talking about uh, deaths and so on. I put a thing up that Gigi told me from what she has a dear friend that she went to kindergarten with. She just lost her husband a few weeks ago.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
yeah, and Gigi's known him, since they were in their early 20s, met each other and got married. But anyway, he went in the bathroom and they heard a thud and walked in. And truth is, he was dead, but you don't decide it that quickly. You call EMTs and do what you can. But end result was he was dead. Well, their granddaughter was visiting, and I titled the Facebook post "Out of the Mouths of Babes." the granddaughter is sick. There were two of them, but the older one was 6. Okay. Call 911. Ambulance shows up. People rush in. They go in the bathroom. They work on him, although they probably knew better. But they worked on him for about 30 minutes. And finally, they said, he's gone, to Gigi's friend. And you want us to spend a moment with him? And she did. And then they wrapped him in a blanket and put him on the Stokes litter. And they're walking him out through the living room to the ambulance. And before they're out of the living room, the 6-year-old granddaughter says to Gigi's friend, uh, Grandma, are you going to get married again?
Oh my.
He said,
If that's gonna be funny down the road. I don't think it was funny in the moment,
well,
but
it actually was. They said it
was
was exactly what needed to be said at that moment because they
it
were all,
lightened things up?
yeah, they were all struck
Yeah.
dumb. They said even the EMTs tried to not laugh out loud, but they couldn't. She said, I was afraid they were going to drop him because they ducked their heads and started laughing. So she said, her name is Michelle. Michelle said, it was exactly what I needed at that time. And so don't hold it, having told Gigi the story, she said, don't hold it against my granddaughter. A, she's 6. And 2, it was a logical question. Okay, he's gone. Next.
Yeah. And,
But
we've talked about this before. Children don't have any filters.
no,
What if
none.
it's in their head, it's coming out their mouth.
Right.
It's just all there is to it.
I just found that background story among the reasons I found that so funny when I was at Lompoc as a guest of the federal government in a gated community. Uh, there was, I think, 6 phone booths outside the dormitory, and you go out and you said, you get in line, but you get in line verbally. You say, who's last? Somebody raises their hand. Now all you have to do is watch that person, not the other 40 standing there. And so I was going out, and my mother had passed away on, I think, a Friday or Saturday. She hadn't been gone long. The funeral hadn't even happened yet. And I go out of the dorm, say who's last, or I'm about to say who's last. And Pat Hall, my dear friend, you and I were talking about him earlier today. This is Mother's Day, Sunday. And
Oh,
everyone and people out there who don't ever call home on Mother's Day. Mother probably wished they wouldn't because you had to call collect.
and they were wanting you to top up their, commissary funds.
Yeah. So I come walking out Mother's Day, early Sunday evening. Mother's been dead less than 2 days, and Pat Hall calls out to me. He says, "Who are you going to call?" And I doubled over laughing, and we still laugh about it 30 years later. At that moment in my life, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And so when the granddaughter said, "Are you going to get Grandma? Are you going to get married again?" I just busted up laughing. And Gigi said, well, I'm glad you took it that way. And I said, you remember Pat Hall on Mother's Day? And she laughed and she said, yeah. I said, precisely what I needed. And are you going to get married again was precisely what Michelle needed to hear. So there are times when it's one of the reasons that we Irish, with our senses of humor, we don't dread wakes, funerals, wakes, etc., weddings, whatever, because it's an opportunity to talk to people and make jokes. Some of the most fun times I've ever had have been at Irish wakes, sometimes with the body right there. You go in and you bow your head and say something sweet to the widow, and then you start swapping stories.
All right. We do
And
the same thing.
yeah, it gets you through difficult times. But I said to Gigi, I'm glad we don't have any young granddaughters hanging around the house when I croak. I, I said to Gigi one time, I don't know why, but I was walking through the living room and sort of looking around. Maybe I had just done a mental tour of the house. And I said to Gigi, um, I hope when I'm gone and the new guy is sitting here, she's 10 years younger than I am. You guys live 10 years younger, so longer. So she'll have probably about 20 years without me. I assume in that time there'll be a new guy. I would hope. And so I said, I hope you tell the new guy how hard I worked for all this. And she sat there for a minute nodding. She said, should I call him now?
There is one moment in every conversation I have with you where I just guffaw. It's involuntary. I can't help it, but that's just wrong, Gigi. Bad
That
Gigi.
is wrong. That is wrong.
Yeah. Tell her I love her.
If I were
That's
a sensitive person, that would really bother me.
it's hysterical. It's unforced levity. I love it. But you're talking about Irish funerals. I think there's a joke or a meme going around for a long time that when an Irishman died, he was in the coffin, and all of a sudden he paid somebody or asked somebody to say, put up a recording. Damn, it's dark in here. Let it watch everybody jump out of their skins.
There used to be a guy that lived across the street named Frank Sabato, long since gone, but he was old, and by the time we moved here, he was an old man and grumpy, a nice guy, but grumpy, and always saying something semi-inappropriate, and he had a unique, gravelly voice, and his son could mock, one of his sons could mock that voice perfectly. And so when we went to his funeral, he was in his full dress blues Navy uniform from World War II, and it was really quite impressive. And then when they closed the lid, as they were closing the lid from inside the coffin, came the voice of Frank Sabato. I wasn't ready to go. Don't shut the lid. What's wrong with you people?
Exactly.
It was,
And
it
those are
was
moments you never forget.
again perfect. You had a funeral, an old guy who's led a good life, uh, has is taking is getting his last reward, and everybody's terribly sad. And then comes the tape recording from inside the coffin, and it was identical to him. For a split second, I thought, "My God, he's back."
Yeah, that's it. You have to suspend disbelief. You're like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" And to go back to what you were talking about, what we love most is the sound of our own name. I was confused for a long time because I really thought that Denise was my middle name and Dam was my first name. Seriously did. It was that damn Denise, and it was mostly my aunt, she just tagged me as that when I was very young, and my mom, I was the oldest, of 3 girls. Well, we had more than that. We had 5 siblings, but we were Denise, Diane, and Debbie, and when she would get rattled, "Denise, Diane, Debbie, damn it, you know your name." "I'm not sure I do." I answer to Denise, Diane, Debbie, and damn Denise, so I get confused. It's a pitiful thing.
Speaking
I
of
know.
speaking of that, and swapping a few little stories there, um, back to building a business and a sales business in particular, humor, tastefully well-placed humor. You don't become Henny Youngman, king of the one-liners, but humor at the right time and place, or a favorite story that you tell well that is, always gets a laugh. That type of thing is perfect in selling and in the long view. Yeah, if you get known as a tastefully humorous guy, people like you more, and people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And humor will help you do all of that. Speaking of humor and Irishmen, my favorite current Irish joke is 3 Irishmen walk out of a bar. No, no, really.
They walk out. I got it.
Ray Considine, you mentioned earlier, the author of Weymouth, had a drinking problem earlier in his life. Before I knew him, I wasn't aware of it. I only heard it from stories from him and from his son. But apparently he was a real two-fisted drinker at some earlier time. And then one day he decided that wasn't a good idea. And Chris, his son, is fond of saying, no meetings, no therapy, no drugs. He just decided it wasn't. He backed into a fire hydrant at a neighbor's house in his brand new yellow Corvette. And apparently that was what pushed him over the edge. But he said, this isn't working for me, and never had another drink in his life. Just stop, boom. And he taught me the phrase. He said, "Do you know the old Irish phrase?" And I said, "The phrase." I said, "No, what is it?" And he says, "One beer is too many. Three beers are not enough." And that's how you head down the path of being a good Irishman. St. Patrick. I'm proud to say St. Patrick's Day just passed,
Yeah.
and I
And I
hardly
didn't wear green. I
ah
never wear green. It's not my color.
I kid about it, but I said the only good thing about my mother dying, she was 100% Irish, Mahoney, one generation off the boat, and I'm 75% Irish, her side, and my dad was half Irish. But it,
That explains so much about you.
does it really?
It does.
But humor is what got us through all those times. And here's a mildly humorous one. Uh, Gigi said to me on St. Patrick's Day, the 17th, "Do you miss your mom more today than other times?" I said, "Well, I miss her all the time whenever it crosses my mind. But St. Patrick's Day isn't the day I miss her because St. Patrick's Day is the only day that I don't have to pretend to like corned beef and cabbage."
Oh, that is some nasty stuff. I
But
love
but
cabbage, but
if
you
my
don't
mo
don't
yeah,
mix them.
if, but if my mother were around, she would come out of a bush with a plate of corned beef and cabbage on St. Patrick's Day, and Johnny Hyde, my friend, the disc jockey, who was, a big deal on the West Coast and then generally known across the music industry, he was a full-time, 100% I call him professional Irishman, and he's gone. So with Johnny and Mother gone, I am spared from eating corned beef and cabbage.
I'm
Uh,
gonna send you a picture of a recipe. Mhm.
okay. Just a picture, right?
Just a picture. I don't that stuff stinks. I don't want it in my house either.
The My mother wasn't a great cook, so when people ask me, what was your favorite meal growing up? Fortunately, one, she wasn't a great cook. She was from New England, where all recipes start out first boil the meat.
Boil them, yeah, and boil them for 6 hours.
Yeah. So, fortunately, she married who became a food broker, and one of our clients was Stouffer's. So we always had, you and I, you acted like you never had Stouffer's when this
I never
came.
I've never had them, and you keep telling me they're good, and I keep thinking, but I love to cook, so I've never bought anything by Stouffer's.
Well, get yourself something, a
I'll try.
box of macaroni and cheese or something. It's really good stuff. In fact, they open a chain of restaurants called Stouffer's that
Oh,
only served institutional size frozen Stouffer dinners. And then, then they put parsley around the edge and so on. People would rave about them. But if you said you're eating, in essence, a TV dinner,
maybe dinner, right.
they'd gag. But it was so good. But anyway, mother not liking to cook and not being a good cook, thank God dad was a food broker and represented Stouffer's because we had a basement full of freezers full of samples. And you say to mother, to my mother, "What are we having for dinner tonight?" She said, "Go downstairs and pick out whatever you want." That was her idea of a home cooked meal.
Okay, well, I'm making my Walmart order today for the weekend because I get my groceries delivered on Saturdays, and in your mom's memory, I will order something from Stouffer's.
I'd get either the mac and cheese, that's good, it's one of their simpler ones, or the lasagna. Lasagna is excellent.
Is it?
Yeah, oh yeah, theirs is.
I'll try one of them,
So,
and I'll give you, my critique.
all right, I'll look forward to that next week. So anyway, the long view, humor, treating every relationship like it's going to be a 30-year friendship starting today. If you're not through working for the day yet, make that the centerpiece of your next call, by phone, by email, by whatever. Find something personal that they'll to say or do or give them, Our refrigerator reminds me of so many good memories because there's a lot of things up there that came from somebody, and it was picked out because of something we had said or done or shared or whatever. There's some meaning behind it. All the way down to Richard Burns' letter opener. And that's been up there, I'm guessing, 30 years, something like that. But it makes me think of him every single time. I was talking to him the other day and said, I think of you more than you realize. He said, oh, that's sweet. I said, it's not sweet. I eat too much. I'm at the refrigerator frequently. And, and there is your letter opener.
It's at eye level. I can't avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. But it reminds me of good times. So, and develop good times. Start keeping a journal. I'm not really terribly fond of that concept, but a place to write things down. Have a page for the Richard Burns in your life and write down things that are meaningful that you can review right before you see them next time or call them next time or what have you. I think it was Mary Kay who said, everyone you meet uh, has a sign hanging around their neck that says, make me feel important. And that's part of building that relationship for the long view. One other uh, quick one, uh, the having stories that are about them or they're involved in just really draws them in. People, the sweetest word in the English language is there to them is their name. Make sure you use it. Make sure you make them feel important. Go out of your way, make a note, carry your own sign around if you have to. Interesting thing I found in my reading, I love historical novels and political books and so on. Anytime I'm reading a book, somewhere in it, words may vary a little bit, but somewhere in it, someone will say, when I was with him or her, I felt as if I were the most important person in the world.
I say that about Bill Clinton.
I was going to mention Bill Clinton. Yeah,
I know.
that's what he's known for.
I jumped in front of you because you taught me that. So I wanted you to know I do listen.
All right. Yeah, Bill Clinton, they told the story of he was drinking iced tea in the Oval Office and never broke eye contact with whoever was writing their book about it. And he said finally he picked up his glass of iced tea to drink it. And I thought, he said, just quickly, I thought, oh, I'm going to get a break because it was almost uncomfortable how zeroed in on me he was. And he put the glass up, and then I noticed he was looking at me through the bottom of the glass he was drinking iced tea from. Even while drinking, he did not break. But you'll find that
That's
in,
it's nerve-wracking just to even hear that.
yeah. But that's how come, rogue though he may be, whether you like him politically or not, everyone who's ever met him liked him. They may call him Slick Willie or whatever, but they like him. I've often said of Bill Clinton, I wouldn't mind having him as a next door neighbor as long as he wore a bell around his neck. I want to know where he is at all times.
And didn't let his wife out of the house.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good point. Well, they don't see each other anyway, so I don't think that's important.
So, no, she's difficult anyway. But
So
yeah, I remember
remember,
you telling
folks,
me that, about Bill Clinton, and yeah, I agree.
it's the secret. Make them feel important. Make them, when you're with them, make them feel as if they were the most important person in the world or your most favorite person in the world. When I first started working at Holiday Magic with William Penpatrick, the owner of the company, he was a master at that. And my job, although I was senior vice president of sales or something, I had a real title and business cards. In a public setting, my job was to come over, take him by the arm, and say, Mr. Patrick, we've got to go over here, and lead him away because he would not do that. He stared at you and paid full attention to you. It was said of Nelson Mandela that he was not only a great speaker, he was a dynamic listener. So long over the long haul, the long view, become a dynamic listener and a person known for caring about the person you're talking to. And with that, I'll shut up because we're only 2 or 3 minutes from the end.
Well, and next week, we are done with this 10-part series. I came up with this at the very beginning of the new year. And next week, I think we're going to dive back into part two. And it's been a while since we talked about, and since you mentioned it, sales infiltration. So let's dive back into that because, as you've said multiple times, it's the most important chapter in the book.
Probably the best thing that's ever been written about selling. It was inspired writing. My hand was, I wrote the whole book, but that chapter in particular, longhand on a legal pad. And I remember while writing it, I was looking at my hand like it was somebody else. It came to me, all the things I had tried to put into words in seminars, speeches, other books, and so on, came to me. And I wrote exactly what the master closers, the master salespeople that I've worked with over the years, exactly what the best of them do. So I'll look forward to getting back into it. Oh, and if I could, I never mentioned Stephen De Silva uh, and
Yeah, he's
his,
our sponsor
yeah,
today.
Money in the Prosperous Soul. Sounds fascinating. I'm going to get it and read it. But thank you, sir, for sponsoring today's show. And as I understand it, you're an upcoming guest on the Denise's other big podcast. So I look forward to hearing that.
Yeah, pretty soon. I can't remember. I think it's in August, but yeah, he's definitely going to be. And I have that book. It's over here close to your books, The Closers. I mean, it's an important book as far as I'm concerned. So you can see it on his website. You can go get it on Amazon. I would tell you to go get it. Well, listen, everybody, we will be back next week. We're wrapping up this episode of the Closers Inner Circle podcast reluctantly, and we would love to hear from you. So go back to sending us your questions. I know that you didn't send as many while we were doing this series, but we're ready for them now. So send us your questions, your thoughts, and observations about what a successful sales career looks like to you. And it can even be about people that you're observing, maybe not even your own career. Your insights could inspire future episodes and help us explore what truly makes a career in sales last. Ben, I will see you next Wednesday and tell Gigi hi and tell her she made me snort tea out of my nose. It's her fault. So, just so you know. So, thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you next week. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.